Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. I've been looking for this so long. A guy I hope is going to become a good friend, Penn Jillette, better known from Penn and Teller and all sorts of television shows, movies. I couldn't go on too many. All right, this is where you and I work together.
Okay.
All right. I was a stagehand for many years, also did lighting and all the rest. And I worked at a place, Mackey Auditorium in Boulder. And I remember when David Copperfield came, and I thought it'd be kind of cool. And he came in with 3 semi-trucks full of the largest crap you would imagine.
Yeah, big stuff.
You know, and I finally learned, you know, what magic was. We had to sign confidentiality agreements and all this ridiculous stuff.
He believes that, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, basically I realized, wait a second, magic is all about getting hot women contortionists to do all the hard work. And I remember putting together this trick. And it was a light bulb in the center and it would light up. And the wires were just everywhere. And I said, this is the cheesiest thing I've ever seen. And I turned around and there's a guy in a full-length fur coat. It was David Copperfield. And then the next week, Penn and Teller came.
You know, seeing big magic props in not lit properly is educational and soul-sucking at the same time.
It is. That's how it works? That
Yeah.
is awful. Next week, I hear Penn and Teller are coming, another magic act. I roll my eyes. I go, God, this is going to suck. And up you guys come in a small rider van with nothing in it. Yeah. And I wanted to meet you because you wrote something in Reason back then, and so we chatted for a little while. But the best part was you did a trick of pulling somebody apart, pulling a teller apart, and then you ripped off the veneer and showed everybody how it happened. And it seems to be that's been your career with so many things, of which is to get behind the magic and get behind the politics and get behind
You know, it's pretty interesting. The confidentiality agreement is really fascinating because many magicians, I would say it's the normal. I mean, you don't need to point to David Copperfield. It's the norm, and it's the way grown-ups do it. It's a smart way. Is they have a rather elaborate confidentiality agreement that says that you can't tell when any of the tricks are done. And it came when we were on Broadway that we were going to go out on tour, and the powers that be came to us and said, you know, we need to draw up your confidentiality agreement that all the local crews will sign. And Teller and I just went, no, we don't need the government to enforce this. And we said, we will give a little speech, which we even stopped doing after a while because it wasn't even necessary. We give a little speech to the crew that said, you know, these tricks can be more fun for people if they don't know how they're done. You're coming in here, you're seeing how the stuff is done, you're working with us. If you're going to give away the tricks to someone else, get something for it. Get a sexual favor, have someone buy you a drink, get money. Because you're giving away something that's actually worth something. And if all things are equal, we'd rather you not tell. But you're all grown-ups, you know what to do. And the funny thing is, everybody talks about how the other magicians' crews spill. Everybody's completely tight-lipped with us. It just seems like treating people respect. It's not a lack of respect on Copperfield's part, but just kind of a lack of bureaucracy.
The assumption is always in bad faith.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys did something, it was in good faith, but it was transparent. And even the trick that you did, I think you said, this is how I got kicked out of the Magic Castle or something.
We only would give away tricks that were fun to know how they were done.
Right.
And the tricks that you give away were much harder to write. And it was really funny because magicians would get very angry at us for that until they realized we were giving away tricks that we developed ourselves. And you know, you're welcome to give away stuff you make yourself.
But it worked. It was almost the same thing in government. That transparency works. I don't know if you know we've got the most transparent president in history, but knowing everything that they do inspires confidence. And you go along, you talking to your crews and going, these are stagehands. I was a stagehand. You know, this is you talk about this stuff. You talk about how awful that person was or how great that was. But this one, I never wanted to talk about it. It was great.
I just think that it's so much easier to just treat people well. I don't think you need to be, you know, if you read the Steven Pinker book on the Better Angels, the fact that things are just getting so much better so quickly, one of the major things you have to accomplish is not being afraid the other person is going to screw you. If you can just solve that, you know, so much of the violence goes down. I mean, that's why we need, I believe, we need some government. It's why I'm not an anarchist. We need a little tiny bit of government just so you feel a little safer from the other guy, so you don't have to lash out against him first.
You came to Boulder, this was 25 years ago. I wanted to talk to you because you wrote something in Reason magazine, a libertarian-leaning magazine. It's like, wait a second.
Leaning?
Leaning. Their friend,
Plum
right.
fell over.
Great, one of my favorite organizations. We do work with them a lot. But I was shocked back then. Wait a second. Here's a guy making his living in show business. I was making my living in show business when, you know, behind the stage, who doesn't like government. And I was really lonely in that world, and here you are leading with it. How in the world did a libertarian-leaning guy, how were you able to survive and thrive in entertainment? Because you're surrounded by, at least people that I've worked with, who are completely the opposite way, mostly, at least 25, 30 years ago.
Kind of, sort of, except that we have always, you know, as Bob Dylan said, to live outside the law, you must be honest. We've always lived outside of that world. I have very, very rarely been given a job by anyone in show business. I was Carney Trash. I was Ringling Brothers' Barn and Bailey Greatest Show on Earth Clown College. Fire Eater, just, you know, the 30 shows a day, grinding out, Renaissance festivals, street performing. No sort of structure around us at all. I mean, in terms of street performing, no structure at all. You know, nobody even being forced to pay, just completely hustling. Then we built a show. Now, if you were going to hire two guys to be Penn and Teller, and you know, we're going back to Broadway for our third time. If you were putting a Broadway show together that was going to be magic with a slightly intellectual bend, Teller and I would not be cast.
Why not?
We were only cast because we were the producers, we were the directors, we were the writers. We always have been.
This is the South Park method,
yeah,
which is
a vertical monopoly.
Right.
It's a vertical monopoly.
I create the show, I pimp the show, I sell the show, we clean up afterwards,
yeah, and
it catches
therefore,
on.
you know, I think that the people who try to be other than liberal in Hollywood, where you've got big organizations doing big shows, it gets to be a little bit harder. I think maybe it gets to be a lot harder because you're asking people for jobs. But we are not really asking people very often for jobs. I lost one job because of being libertarian.
Really? What was it?
And it was a part, there was a part that they wrote for me, which is when you lose a part that's written for you.
You really piss somebody off.
Special. Yeah. It was a Murphy Brown, and I always get along with Candice Bergen wonderfully. And they wrote this part where I was essentially playing Howard Stern. It was a shock.
You were a shock jock, right?
Then she goes out. And they thought it would be I'd be good for that. And it's where this plot was I betray her trust after she's talked with me over dinner and talk about it on the show the next day. And I went in for the audition, and it was the time of Clinton, of course, and it was the time when the people that ran Murphy Brown were hardcore Clinton supporters. They may have been the Clinton supporters in Hollywood. And I went in and I thought, well, I'm going to play the part of a shock jock. Why not just kick it out? And it's often good in an audition to just be the character. So I went in fairly shocking, to say the least. And I went in trashing Clinton and trashing them and making jokes and everything else. And we will never know. The record will never show. The transcript of that particular meeting is not available. It was not taken. We don't have video of it. We only have the story years later. And I could have simply not gotten the part because I wasn't good. And that is, of course,
be that.
That's the most likely thing we'll take. But I will say that on the anti-liberal, anti-Clinton joking, they did not seem pleased. I'm going to try to tell the truth as much as I can. So we'll say I lost the part because I sucked, but in addition to that, they were also not happy about politics.
When you drove up to the theater and where I was working, in a little van, a little rider van, you know, in the same way that Trey Parker, Matt Stone, did their own little cartoon and put it on the web. You know, Jesus versus Santa Claus,
Yeah,
and it started something. So it was self-made.
With George Clooney.
Yeah.
A huge help from George Clooney. Yeah.
But so as entertainment is getting democratized, that is, anybody with a camera now and an Apple computer can make their own entertainment. Do you think we're going to find more guys like you that will pop out and be able to survive saying liberty is a good thing, government's a bad thing?
Well, you know, Cocteau said that movie making wouldn't be art until the tools were as cheap as pencil and paper. You know, you've had a certain kind of democracy in writing and in painting, fine arts, but it's now coming to electronic stuff. I mean, we're now going to see all sorts of punk stuff, and we don't know how to do that yet. We haven't really found a way to pay musicians yet. You know, the studio structure is falling apart, and we don't really know how to fill that in. You know,
newspapers the same way.
Exactly. We don't really know how to do that, but it's going to work out. You know, and nobody will solve it. Everybody will solve it, and that's, you know, that is the basic libertarian principle. I think that we're seeing stuff happening that insanely fast, and it is going toward freedom. You know, it's going toward freedom. That's the direction, and it's going toward freedom. And I mean, the fact that Google does all its searches, at least in the U.S., all its searches based on the basic idea that Nicholas Negroponte at MIT's Media Lab in the 90s. I remember when I recorded his audio book. I remember reading. I was the voice for it, for Nicholas Negroponte. He wanted me to do it. A book called Being Digital that came out in the early 90s. And it had this sentence in it, bits is bits. 3-word sentence, 2 of the words the same. Bits is bits. And he explains it in the book. And I had to do with an audio book, so it's a little easier to do an audio book if you understand it. So I had to read it a few times to understand it. And that 3-word sentence is the entire future. The fact that Google decided that hardcore gay porn and the Constitution and pictures of kittens were exactly the same thing.
They were bits. That
decision, that it was just bits, is the biggest political change we are going to see since the United States accepted newspapers.
How so?
Because once you've decided that the information, whether you want it or not, is decided by the individual. Once you've made gatekeeping really, really difficult, then all of a sudden people can learn anything. And when people can learn anything, things move really, really fast. If you talked to whack jobs, nuts, gay rights people that were crazy and that no one agreed with, in 1995 and asked them, how soon will gay marriage be accepted in the USA? I'm talking about the absolute vanguard, people that no one thought were right. They would have told you, and indeed they did tell me, 2035, 2040, and they were the crazy ones, because the other people were saying 2050, 2060, 2070. And then this new century came around, and people got a chance to meet people that were openly gay, got a chance to understand that, and this sphere we have of humanity just expanded tremendously. And what a lot of people involved in the liberty movement don't seem to understand is that gay rights is what's happening with them. You don't want to fight that. You want to accept that. You want to accept that marijuana and gay rights and gun rights and all of these individual liberties are all precisely the same thing. And we're finding that out with bits is bits. Freedom is freedom. You know, a great science fiction writer whose name I've forgotten and I'm not going to try to grab, once said that if you could convince the dope people that the gun people were okay, and the gun people that the dope people were okay, everybody in the country was libertarian.
Do you think that, you know, I know Colorado. Colorado, I believe, is a libertarian state. It's just that the people in the middle don't know it. That they get it. They don't like intrusive government. They have been more socially permissive with legalizing pot and gay marriage and the rest. But the political parties, particularly here in Colorado on the left, have been better at manipulating how to get their votes in. The right is starting to catch up with that. But in the middle, I wonder, are the people in Colorado, in the nation, how many of them are just one good economics lesson away from being libertarian?
What we're watching is this wonderful thing happening, which is we're watching the Democrats and the Republicans getting the hell out of the way. They're making themselves completely and utterly obsolete.
How so?
The Democrats are putting so much money into big government that we can watch cities collapse. We can watch Detroit collapse. We're watching California fall apart. We're watching all these pension plans and the idea that people can vote themselves money and that everything has to be controlled by the government is just plain not working, and people are getting sick of it. And meanwhile, the Republicans, who should be stepping in and reaping the spoils, are hung up in this Christian right and anti-gay and anti-immigration thing. They own the whole country if they just let go of that. There isn't a human being under 30 that you can find that's against gay rights. It's just not happening. And immigration, you've got to loosen up on. And what they're doing is they're getting out of the way so that the nuts, and we know 30 years ago, talking libertarian, I was completely and utterly nuts, saying, give me any leftist and I will go further left on social liberties. You tell me you want medical marijuana, I'll tell you I want legal heroin. And you tell me anybody on the right who says the government should not be paying for art that I don't enjoy, and I'll tell you, well, the government shouldn't be paying for public schools. Beat that. So, we can out-left the left and out-right the right on all the stuff that people really feel. It's purely American. And that's the thing that there is an American spirit. And the American spirit is not Clay Aiken on American Idol. That's centralized government. That's judges sit there and decide who the best singer is. Government, they sit there, they give the people a little bit of a vote, but they sit there and they go, well, you were a little pitchy. Your pitch was a little off, and I'm not sure this is the showbiz way. That is American Idol, and Clay Aiken is socialism in a nutshell. What libertarianism is one word: Elvis. Elvis never did no goddamn talent show. He never had anybody sitting there going, don't wiggle your hips so much. As a matter of fact, when he went on Ed Sullivan said, shoot him from the waist up because we don't want to see his hips move like that. You know what the United States of America said? Well, yes, we do. And they voted with their pocketbooks in the free market and made Elvis a star, and Bob Dylan a star, and Tiny Tim a star, and Jay-Z a star, and Lady Gaga a star, and Eminem a star, and all these people who would never have a moment's chance on American Idol. And the American government, all these filters, have never been good at picking winners. They can't pick the best solar company any more than they could have picked Steve Jobs. They couldn't pick out Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, out in front of a Home Depot trying to fix houses. They couldn't pick those two guys out. But, we could. America could. And I think that everybody knows that. And they have to learn from the left that you can't just keep throwing money at problems.
I don't think everybody knows that.
Get the government out of our bedrooms and away from our businesses simultaneously. Understanding freedom is the same thing.
Let me disagree with you. I believe that the output is the same. Absolutely. When we get to choose, everyone wins. But there is a fear. And fear is the driver of government. Fear that we need a security blanket, that somehow a collective is smarter. And by the way, the collective is smarter.
Sure.
That's why we have markets and winners go up there. But I can't trust I can't trust that this person is going to make the right decision. So you have liberals who might be right on so many social issues, but they're the ones that say, you know what, we need a minimum wage. We need a minimum wage because you're going to be exploited. And not saying, wait a second, if these two people wanted to get married, you're down with it, but if these two just want to have a relationship, that relationship you want to criminalize. But no, it's because they know better. City planners always know better. And we defer to...
One city planner we kind of like, right?
Yeah,
Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Mick Jagger, and that's what he studied.
Did he?
He studied traffic and city planning.
Damn,
Semester
I
in
didn't
college.
know that.
Yeah. I think they all should become Mick Jagger. All of you, go out there, grab a microphone, get yourself a blues band. If one of the guys gets too powerful, drown him in the pool. Go right on, do a fine job.
But there is a trust in schools especially. The idea that poor people can't make these kind of decisions. Hell, if we gave them the cash and said, here, go to a school of your choice and stop going to that. No, we can't do that because they're not smart enough. You know, that we need, and so there is a feeling that Obamacare is necessary because we can't do what you just described so well.
Let's start with a few things that are absolutely true, I believe. Hillary Clinton is smarter than me by a lot. She's smarter than probably most anyone I know, and would be smarter than anyone I know, except that I happen to know a few outliers. Hillary Clinton's really, really smart. Hillary Clinton also really, really wants to do what's best for people. I know she's hungry for power. I know there's a lot of skeletons in her closet, but she really wants to do what's best for people, you know? She is, let's say, 30 times smarter than me. Let's pick any number you want smarter than me that she is. But she's not smarter than everybody. And that's the only difference you need. She's not smart enough to know what's best for everyone else. You know, I don't even really know what's best for me. I'm in the process of selling one house and buying another. It's a hard decision.
You can't sell that house.
I think I am.
You can't sell that house. Everybody knows that house.
I think I'm gonna.
That'd be like Hugh selling the mansion. You can't sell that house.
Exactly. I don't even know what's best for me. So when you tell me, I mean, here's the scenario that's so difficult. I have never had a drink of alcohol in my life. I have never had any recreational drug in my life. I have been high with Trey Parker of South Park because Trey Parker so wanted to get me high and so wanted to be around me high that he flew in when I was having dental surgery and said, this isn't recreational, but I want to be there. I had very bad dental surgery. They made me very, very high. And Trey Parker said afterwards, I'm absolutely right. You're better high than you are sober. And I said, wow. I don't even remember it. He said, no, but you were great. So anyway, I've never been recreationally high. I don't drink. I don't smoke cigarettes. But I am not willing to sit here and tell you that I've made better choices with my life than Jim Morrison did. Jim Morrison, dead at 28. I still don't know. And if you tell me that you've got a woman with a 172 IQ in the Midwest who's 16 years old and is the biggest math genius we have, and she's on a full scholarship to MIT, and she instead is working at McDonald's and wants to get pregnant and have children as a single mom, I can't even tell her she should stay in school. And because I don't know what's best for other people, I can't possibly get behind Hillary Clinton. Because no matter how smart she is, I don't think she knows what's best for people either.
We've only got a couple minutes left. I want to talk about entertainment. In that, one of my frustrations, and I work with social conservatives and I work with libertarian conservatives, and that on social conservatives and on the left, people are really easily offended. I mean, just always offended. Very, you're prudish on this side, you're eco-sensitive on that side. I mean, it just, offend me. But I have found that people on the left have a much better skill of weaving their art and their politics together. I listen to a Sting song, and that's got dimension and this, and it's emotional, and then you find out afterwards, wait a second, that's a leftist tune. And on the right, our team seems to have things like, I'm proud to be an American, which just throws it in your face in such a two-dimensional way. I think about how the only people I know who can do it on the libertarian side are the South Park guys, you, maybe Mythbusters, PJ O'Rourke, a good friend. But why is it that this side, I believe, is better at weaving art and their political messages together?
It's because I think that America loves the rebel and the outsider. They love, country western is based on the loser, rock and roll is based on the rebel, and stand-up comedy, three of the forms we invented, stand-up comedy is based on the smartass. And it is really easy to do compassionate, powerful stuff about we should all work together and help people. Music is a collectivist thing. So it's very hard to do individual songs that are uplifting. Although we do it better than anyone. I mean, really, that's what you have with a lot of the Bob Dylan stuff. A lot of your rock and roll stuff has that. But I don't know why. I think it's because all the trends of the future are sexier than the prudish trends, maybe. I don't know. And may come down simply to sex. Maybe nothing more than sex.
That's the answer right there.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been great. We'll get drunk tonight. It'll be your first drink. It'll be terrific. Sure. Listen for me on KHOW Radio. Tell a friend about the Independence Institute, independenceinstitute.org. See you next week.
I'll have a grasshopper, maybe.
Grasshopper. Mint julep for you.